What is up, you guys, and welcome back to your Average Joe Sports Network. I'm your host, Drew Hoover, and we are at my 2021 NFL Mock Draft Part 2. So, if you haven't seen picks 1 through 10, please click out. Make sure to watch that video before proceeding to this one so you can understand how things are going on right here. So let us resume the NFL Draft, starting with the 11th pick. And the New York Giants are now on the clock. And I don't think I've ever really agreed with David Gettleman's drafting in a few years. I didn't really agree with Daniel Jones's pick. I didn't agree with Andrew Thomas's pick when there was obviously a lot of better offensive linemen than him. So I wouldn't be surprised if he surprised me with his number 11th pick. But let's address the needs right here. We got the wide receiver position. I've told you before, they've signed a lot in free agency. Kenny Galladay, John Ross, and Dante Pettis, but all have experienced injuries in the past. You look at the defense, they have improved tremendously under Joe Judge. But I think that they need to get an edge rusher, something that has been lacking since the days of Tom Coughlin. They could go inside linebacker to complement Blake Martinez, who had a big year last year, or go defensive back. To be honest, the world is the oyster at number 11, and I don't think they're going to trade down right here because the pick is in. And with the 11th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Devontae Smith, wide receiver from Alabama. I had to look for a second. I'm going to keep that in for the humor perspective. But anyway, Devontae Smith, wide receiver from Alabama. And people have said that Jalen Waddle is the superior Devontae Smith. But I have heard that David Gettleman likes Devontae Smith. When you look at the offense, particularly under Jason Garrett, used to be the head coach for the Cowboys, now brings that West Coast offense to the New York Giants. A lot of people didn't see it as a good fit, but they did, sign in all these weapons and stuff. And I don't think it would hurt to add Devontae Smith in there, and as insurance in case all these wide receivers fall in their old ways and get injured. But if all is said and done, if all those guys are injured, you still have Darius Slayton, who's proven to be effective, and Devontae Smith. And now we are at the number 12 pick. Remember, if you watched my previous video, the Carolina Panthers traded down from the number 8th pick to the 12th pick, which was previously owned by the Philadelphia Eagles. If you want to know who they picked, and like I said, you haven't seen the previous video, please click on and see there before you look at this pick. But anyway, the Carolina Panthers, I feel like they made this pick because, like I said, they didn't have to trade down that far, and they feel like there would still be players in there that would be on their board available that would meet their need right here. And when I look at this, they need to go to the defensive side, particularly at defensive back. And, Philip Snow, the defensive coordinator, has defensive back experience coaching them and stuff. And when he was first hired as defensive coordinator, he says he's looking for guys that are fast, that are physical, that don't give up big plays and can turn over the ball. And so I feel like there is an obvious pick right here, and the pick is in for the Carolina Panthers. And with the 12th pick, with the 12th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select J.C. Horn, cornerback from South Carolina. Man, it is ridiculous how physical this guy is, how much he packs a punch like a linebacker, and it's ridiculous how fast he can run. He ran under 4.4. I believe it was 4.37. So when you have a guy that runs this fast, that can be physical enough to cause turnovers, I think that fits perfectly to the philosophy that Phil Snow has at the defense of a scheme. So let's move on to now the 13th pick, where the Los Angeles Chargers are now on the clock. And, I feel like they could go offensive line right here, but they have been vouching for their offensive line, particularly Trey Perkins, the offensive tackle. And so it makes you wonder if they're going to fill that defensive side, which there's a lot of needs at defense. They haven't signed Melvin Ingram back yet. They did have Kenneth Murray drafted last year, but he could obviously use help at the linebacker position. And, you know, they need some cornerback help right there. Hopefully they'll have Derwin James back healthy, but I feel like they need help right there. So with the top 2 corners off the board, it'd be interesting to see where would they go if they did pick a cornerback. And the pick is in. And with the 13th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Greg Newsome, the second cornerback from Northwestern. Again, a cornerback that ran under 4.4. I think Greg Newsome was the bigger surprise. And when you talk about this guy can not only do man-to-man, but he also can do several coverages. And so when you talk about defensive coordinator Renardo Hill, who specializes in defensive backs, he expects them to run all different types of zone coverages and stuff. I feel like Greg Newsome is a perfect fit. I think is the best one they could have gotten at that spot. So now we're at the number 14th pick. Again, the Broncos trade down from the number 9 pick to the 14th pick. And again, I stress it enough. If you did not watch my previous video, I don't want to spoil this for you. So if you hadn't seen it, watch the previous video. So the Denver Broncos swapped picks with the Minnesota Vikings. They went up to number 9. And now the Denver Broncos are at the number 14th pick right here. And they obviously could have gotten Rashawn Slater right there in number 9. But I feel like I said, they wanted Trey Lance and stuff. So they traded back. So they traded out of getting Rashawn Slater. They obviously couldn't get Trey Lance. So it makes you wonder what they want to do. When I look at Vic Fangio, man, he's a mastermind at defenses and stuff. A lot of defenses in the league have copycat what he has done, and a lot of it has to do with pre-snap, giving quarterback different looks and then adjusting before the snap. Also has a lot to do with relying on the coverage to make plays and make turnovers over the ball. So it'd be very interesting to see where they go. A lot of people have said corner, even though they have stacked it up at the cornerback position with guys like Ronald Darby. They got Kareem Jackson. So they got a lot of defensive backs there. So it'd be tedious at this point. Plus, like I said, if they wanted a cornerback, they could have stayed at number 9. Like I said, this is assuming this is the way the draft is going to go. So it's curious what they're going to do with the 14th pick. And the pick is in. And with the 14th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker from Notre Dame. Again, you got to get a guy that knows his coverages, a guy that can, that can make plays from sideline to sideline. They may even put him at nickel, but this guy can do that. To me, he's my favorite linebacker in this year's draft. People say he's undersized. Well, guess what? They said the same thing about Ray Lewis when he came out. He turned out to be one of the best linebackers of all time. So I think Vic Fangio knows what he's talking about if he drafts Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at number 14. And now we're at number 15 with the New England Patriots. Now, they kept saying that this team was going to trade up to get a quarterback in the top 10. And I don't know if it's just because the Patriots and stuff and Bill Belichick, but I mean, they have a lot of picks to offer, which would be curious if teams like the Panthers and the Broncos, like I said, would not accept a trade from them. But again, I mentioned Carolina, where it talked about they wanted to still be in the mix of those top tier players that fit their needs that are on the draft board. And like I said, the connection between George Patton, the general manager, and the Minnesota Vikings, who he previously worked for. So I feel like it fits perfectly right here, though, because I think they still get the guy that they want, and the pick is in. And with the 15th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Justin Fields, quarterback from The Ohio State University. And to me, this is curious because just 2 years ago, we had Dwayne Haskins, the quarterback who broke the record for most passes in Ohio State history, even though he was considered the top quarterback by many regards, he was the one that slipped to number 15 to the Washington Redskins at that time. So Justin Fields, there's a lot of people that were spreading rumors about him, about how he can't see the field well, that he can't make those decisions and stuff. People were quite, maybe the update about his epilepsy, which he was honest about, maybe that drops him down a little bit. But I think it works to the Patriots' favor. They don't have to give up any of those picks, and Justin Fields still falls down there. He can learn under Cam Newton and stuff. And like I said, Cam Newton's under that 1-year deal, and I feel like Patriots got a huge steal at number 15. And now let's go to the number 16th pick, because the Arizona Cardinals are now on the clock. And this is another team like the Carolina Panthers that were really invested in getting a defensive back. But so far, the top 3 corners have come off the board. And so it makes you wonder what they want to do. Jalen Waddle is still there at wide receiver. I wouldn't be surprised there. They could use some offensive line help. Running back might be a stretch right here, but I've said this before. I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona picks a running back right here, because when you talk about the weapons they already have in the receiving core, talk about Kyler Murray, if they added a running back, I think it would definitely set them over the top. But I think they're really focused on that defensive side. So I think it's going to be interesting who they pick, because the pick is in. And with the 16th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Zaven Collins, linebacker from Tulsa. At 6'5", man, I've told you this guy can run zone. He can maneuver in the gaps, and not to mention, if a quarterback tries to throw in his direction, man, you better be throwing accurate, because this guy, man, you can't throw it in his direction. And I love the combination, the team that they now have with Isaiah Simmons and now Zaven Collins right there on that defensive side. And I know they wanted to get maybe a defensive back since they let Patrick Peterson go and he's now in Minnesota. But I think they were preparing for that for a long time. That's why they drafted guys like Byron Murphy from Washington a few years ago. I think they get a good linebacker in Zaven Collins. And now let's move to the number 17 pick with the Las Vegas Raiders, who are now on the clock. It is very interesting what they're going to do. There was news, rumors I should say, that they were going to draft a quarterback. They looked at all the quarterbacks, but then again, they do that every year. It seems like it looks like they always try to tempt people to be like, hey, we can do, draft a quarterback. But if they do trade up to get a quarterback, I will note this: if they do trade up, watch for them to try to snag Trey Lance. When you talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, when they had Alex Smith, and yet they traded a lot of capital to get Patrick Mahomes to learn under Alex Smith and that offensive staff, watch for Mike Mayock and John Gruden to make a big play at Trey Lance if you do see them trade in the NFL draft on day one. But let's say they stay right here where they're at. I think they go with a safe pick right here. Again, similar to the Cardinals, they wanted to get linebackers, but the top 3 linebackers are now off the board. So I think any linebacker at this point might be a stretch. You might get away with getting maybe a Nick Bolton or a Jermaine Davis if either one of them slip into the second round. So it's curious to see what they will do right here. I keep saying curious. I keep hearing that I say the same phrases all the time, but I can't help myself. But anyway, and the pick is in for the Las Vegas Raiders. And with the 17th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Tevin Jenkins, offensive tackle from Oklahoma State. And to me, I think that just screams John Gruden right there. A guy that can pummel his opponents into the ground. And like I said, the fact that he can mirror his opponents when you talk about speed that comes off the edge. And then I feel like this is a safe pick for John Gruden right here. Not to mention it fortifies that offensive line for Josh Jacobs and Derek Carr. like I said, whether they decide to address the quarterback position in this draft, around the first round and forward, is still yet to be seen. But at least they have some more protection of the offensive line. And now we have the second pick for the Miami Dolphins at number 18. They are now on the clock right here. Obviously, they went with Penei Sewell, so you're wondering, hey, they could get a receiver. They can get Jalen Waddle. He's right there. Somehow he has slid to them in their lap. But then, guess who's calling? The Baltimore Ravens, who, again, traded Orlando Brown and got the Chiefs' 31st pick, has traded up to the number 18th pick with the Miami Dolphins. So it makes me curious what they'll go right there. But I think we all know what this pick will be. So the pick is in. The Miami Dolphins have given the 18th pick to the Baltimore Ravens. And with the 18th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Jalen Waddle, wide receiver from Alabama. Again, a guy that can stretch the field for you, a guy that can be used in multiple packages. You talk about Greg Roman, offensive coordinator. I think this is a huge steal for the Baltimore Ravens right here. And not to mention, they didn't have to trade up. A lot of people think that with the 2 first-round picks they had, that they could have used to trade up higher in the draft. But I think this is a perfect spot for them to land. Like I said, the Miami Dolphins could trade back from there, and they get their star wide receiver to go alongside Marquise Brown. And so let's go to the number 19th pick with the Washington football team. Again, a team that just refuses to come up with a mascot at this point. But they seem to be very confident with the roster they have, particularly at the defensive side of the ball. And I mentioned in my first video that the Miami Dolphins traded Eric Flowers back to the Washington football team. And so it makes you wonder what they're going to do. Again, I'll mention this. There has been a few people that have said that if the Washington football team wants a quarterback like Trey Lance, that they could trade up into the first round. Watch for the number 8th pick again. They accepted a trade from the Philadelphia Eagles for reasons I've already mentioned. But Ron Rivera, the former head coach of the Carolina Panthers, obviously there's a connection right there. So maybe Matt Rule and Ron Rivera could see to an understanding. Again, I don't see the Carolina Panthers trading that far down. But watch for the Washington football team, again, to try to get a play at a quarterback like Trey Lance. But again, they're staying put right here. And honestly, I don't think Eric Flowers is going to be enough at the offensive line position. They could draft a wide receiver, even though Jalen Waddle's now off the board. And the pick is in for the Washington football team. And with the 19th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Washington football team select Elijah Vera-Tucker, offensive guard from USC. Now, this is a guy that can play in multiple positions. He can play. He's technically a left tackle. A lot of people say he can move at left guard. So now that you got Eric Flowers back, you can decide where your strong suit is. I think Eric Flowers is going to stay at offensive guard, and I think they're going to put him at left tackle. And again, you fortify that offensive line right there. And, you know, they still have Ryan Fitzpatrick right there. I'm not sure they want to stick right there. I would assume they would maybe go after quarterbacks in the later rounds, like Kyle Trask, David Mills, or Kellen Mond right there. But at least they get the offensive line fortified on that left side. And now to end this segment with the 20th pick with the Chicago Bears. And man, I feel like the Bears really missed out. I feel like if the way goes the way that I feel it's going to go, the Bears are going to miss out on drafting a quarterback of the future. And I feel like, with Ryan Pace, general manager, entering his 6th year, and Matt Nagy entering his 4th year, you got to think that there's got to be significant change to the Bears in order for those two particularly to keep their jobs and stay out of the hot seat. A lot of people don't see it that way, but watch for the next year or two that if they don't move past what they did last year, which was go to the wild card game, that I see those two moving on. And so let's say they move right here and stuff. They don't get their quarterback and stuff. Again, offensive line is in need. You know, the offensive line keep coming off the board right here, and I feel like this is just something like you said, to just go with the best player available at this point. And the pick is in for Chicago, and with the 20th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle from Virginia Tech. Again, a guy that's very good at locking his arms, maintaining his balance, and you know, like I said, if you want Andy Dalton to stay upright, maybe he could have someone that he could have had at Dallas, you know, in Dallas with Tyron Smith. I obviously don't think Christian Darrisaw and Tyron Smith are on the same level, but they give you that anchor on that left tackle position, and maybe perhaps it gives Andy Dalton enough to, you know, make decisions. And again, same with the Washington football team. Watch out for the quarterbacks in the later rounds, particularly Kylan Mond and Kyle Trask, to be a selection in day 2. And that ends this segment right here. Again, if you watched all this and yet somehow you hadn't watched the first film yet, make sure to watch parts 1 and 2 before watching the part 3 that's coming out soon. Alright, stay tuned. Alright guys, hope you liked my video. Don't forget to subscribe to Your Average Joes. Don't miss on any of my videos. Also, if you have any graphic design needs, go to Anthony Garcia. Check out his website, Anthony Garcia Design. His website will be in the description below.